of Bitcoin. But that's not the signal today. The signal is what's really interesting is what's happening in the betting odds markets. The betting odds markets just might have confirmed that an insider knows that a strategic Bitcoin reserve is happening in the US of A. The betting odds literally went from 30% in the dead of night or early morning to over 60%. That's right. The betting odds are anticipating a 60% probability that a US strategic Bitcoin reserve will be implemented before the year 2027. That is a big effing deal. Now, for anyone who's not in the know about the betting odds, I'll give you a little bit of context so you guys understand the significance of it. The reason the betting odds are so, the reason you put so much weight on betting odds in general is you have to put money on the line. You have to put something at stake, right? That's the whole point of the betting odds, right? And they've accurately predicted more than pollsters, more than reviewers, more than anything. The betting on markets more accurately predict something that's going to happen than anything else. And the reason for that, it's simple economics. It's just people have to put something at stake. When something's at stake, when you have to put your money on the line, to see whether you're right or wrong, it tends to be a little bit more accurate, right? It goes down to the whole reason that we're free market maximalists here at Simply Bitcoin. The free market gives you millions upon millions of signals to tell you, where to allocate your resources, where you can make a profit. You could take that same type of philosophy and mentality and apply it to why the betting odds are more accurate than pollsters, right? Specifically when it comes to like US elections and such, right? Like if you look at all the pollsters, they'll tell you one thing. If you look at the betting odds, they'll tell you another thing, right? Now, that's not to say they're 100% certain, but I do want to give you this really, really good example regarding the Nobel Peace Prize. So the Nobel Peace Prize, a lot of people thought that Donald Trump was going to win it. And the reason for that is because since he took office on the second term, I know he's a very divisive figure for some people, he has ended a lot of wars. That's undebatable, right? But this lady, she's the opposition leader in Venezuela, which currently, in my opinion, is under a form of dictatorship. She got awarded the prize, right? But what's really interesting about it, and as it relates to the initial topic, the betting odds were actually the first ones to predict that she was going to win the prize, right? So let's check out this article from Yahoo Finance. Probe into Polymarket Nobel Peace Prize bets. Here are the key takeaways. Norwegian officials are investigating potential insider trading on the prediction market Polymarket. Just hours before the announcement of the Nobel Peace Prize, 3 Polymarket accounts placed bets on the ultimate winner, pointing to a potential leak. The 2025 Nobel Peace Prize went to Marina Corina Machado, a Venezuelan opposition leader. Going into the announcement, Machado wasn't considered a frontrunner in the Nobel Peace Prize odds. But roughly 10 hours before the announcement, and just a few days after the Nobel Committee's decision, Machado's Polymarket odds to win shot up from 3.6% to more than 70%, driven by wagers from just a few accounts. So think about that for a second, right? If you have insider information about, a certain thing that's going to happen, you have alpha. And with these betting, I'm not saying that this is I'm not advocating about the morality of it. I'm just saying that, again, the Polymarket odds, as it relates to the U.S. National Strategic Reserve, which is what I want to talk about today, and then we're going to talk about Texas. Look at what happened at 7 a.m. today or yesterday, right? So at 7 a.m. in the dead of night or early morning, the odds went from 38% to 61%. So from 38% to 61%. Coincidentally, this was the same day that the great state of Texas announced that they're buying Bitcoin for their state reserve, right? Which is a big effing deal in and of itself. It's the 8th largest economy in the world. I think about that for a second. The 8th largest economy on planet Earth just announced that they're going all in on Bitcoin and they're buying a state level strategic Bitcoin reserve. The same day, the poly markets odds jumped from 38% to 61%. Now, this goes to the game theory conversation that we always talk about. I had the privilege and the honor of being able to talk to Senator Cynthia Lummis and Dennis Porter in Washington, D.C. earlier this year. And the reason I wanted to have a conversation with both of them is because Dennis Porter is really moving these initiatives forward on the state level across the United States. Senator Cynthia Lummis is really moving forward the strategic Bitcoin reserve on the federal level. So talking to both of them was quite interesting. And what was interesting about having the conversation with Dennis Porter is that Dennis Porter has been making the case that, hey, if a strategic Bitcoin reserve happens, it's actually going to happen on the state level first. And that makes perfect sense. On the state level, you have a lot less friction. You have a lot less, dividing parties, right? It's a lot more local, right? So you can get rally and support behind that single initiative. And that seems like that just happened in the state of Texas. We're going to dive deep into that article in just a little bit. But the point I'm trying to make is, again, that happened. That news was announced, and either by coincidence or, as I showed you guys with what happened with the Nobel Peace Prize winner, somebody knows something we don't. And they were willing to put their money where their mouth was. They're willing to put their money at stake and say, hey, you know what? I'm pretty sure that this is going to happen. And that's how the odds went up the way they went up. And they're staying up. And by the way, this is consequential because ever since they launched this poll on November 5th of 2025, it went from 70% yes, and it went all the way down to 38%. And now it's all the way back up to 61% chance that a strategic Bitcoin reserve gets launched by 2027. Now, what's really interesting as well is we were actually talking about this on yesterday's show. On yesterday's show, we were making the case for you guys that, hey, this thing's probably going to happen. We played you guys a video of Checkmatey saying, listen, at these prices, with the amount of Bitcoin that's being bought, I don't know who else is buying Bitcoin, but sovereign wealth funds or institutions. No one has the capital to buy the Bitcoin. That's what he was saying. Simultaneously, we paid you guys a clip of Anthony Pompliano going on CNBC making the case that, listen, I think eventually the United States government is going to announce that they're buying Bitcoin. Now, we were talking about this yesterday. We went on like a 20, 30-minute rant telling you guys as to why it wouldn't be intelligent for the United States government or any big institution or country to announce before they made the purchases. Because if they announced it before they made the purchases, what do you think is going to happen to the price? It's going to go crazy, which is why this poly market stuff is so interesting, because it's had a history of front running winners, much more so than any pollster, much more so than any type of individual reviewer, expert. The odds markets are just that much more accurate because money is involved. It's very cheap to talk. That saying, put your money where your mouth is, that's what the odds markets represent. And overnight, the day after Texas announced a state level reserve, the odds shot up from 38% to 61%. So maybe someone knows something we don't know. I'm starting to suspect. I think it's going to happen. I'm saying it right now. I think I was reading this. I think it was Bitcoin Jack, like one of the predominant accounts, and the way he was framing it was basically along the lines of like, look, the 4-year cycle is already over. It's already ended. If Bitcoin prices stay the same for the rest of the year, so for 30 more days, we are already in an uncharted territory. The meme is 3 green, 1 red. So right now, as it stands, it's 2 green, 1 red, and then 1 yet to be determined. So that means that the 4-year cycle could already be broken, right? Now, there's a lot of influencers that are kind of taking this upon. I'm not going to name any names. I'm a big fan of a lot of their content. Some of them are friends I'm friends with, but there's some big influencers that are big believers in the 4-year cycle theory, calling that the 4-year cycle is done, it's over. But think about that for a second. If Polymarket is saying that there's a 61% chance that a strategic Bitcoin reserve is announced next year, I'm just going to ask you guys the question. Do you really think that the price is not going to pump to levels you've never seen before if the United States of America announces that they're actively buying Bitcoin? I'm going to leave you guys with that question. It's such an obvious answer. Like, it's not a big deal that MicroStrategy buys $100 million worth of Bitcoin anymore. It's a big effing deal that the most powerful government on the face of the planet that is backed by the most powerful money printer on the face of the planet says, hey, guys, we're buying Bitcoin. Like, that's a big effing deal. So this is the news from Texas. Again, it came out yesterday, same day as, or yeah, literally the day before the Polymarket odds switched. And here's the headline from CoinDesk. Texas buys $5 million in Bitcoin ETF as state edge towards first government crypto reserve. Texas took a step towards building a state-backed crypto reserve, grabbing $5 million of BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, officials told CoinDesk, though the state is still setting up its Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. The state recently gathering information from the crypto industry on a proper approach to building its Bitcoin stockpile, and its passed legislation early this year, appropriating $10 million to fund it, leaving only a few last steps before it potentially becomes the first U.S. state to begin long-term crypto investments in earnest, though others would be expected to soon join it. A few weeks ago, Texas moved past its deadline to, quote, capture the industry's best practices so it can utilize these practices in the implementation and management of its Bitcoin. Well, I'll give a piece of advice for the state of Texas. Buying a Bitcoin ETF is not the same as buying spot Bitcoin and putting it in self-custody. I hope they do that. It goes on to say, formal requests for information issued in September, entities across the industry provided input on how it could set up and manage the stockpile conceived of in the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and Investment Act. Last week, the state's comptroller's office moved to secure $5 million in BlackRock's ETF as a placeholder. A spokesman for the Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts told CoinDesk on Tuesday. It's an opening move as the state continues to work towards a contract with a custodian. So it looks like they are working towards buying spot Bitcoin. But again, I don't like this ETF replacement, right? I don't like that. And also, one thing is the state of Texas saying that they're buying a spot Bitcoin reserve. The other thing is doing it right, like El Salvador is doing it. El Salvador has set the standard. If you don't make your reserves public for the world to see, I don't believe you. Proof of reserves. Full stop. If you don't have proof of reserves, it's a trust me, bro type of situation. We've lived through a trust me, bro type of situation with Fort Knox. That's an entirely trust me, bro type of situation. Trust me, bro. We seized your gold. We built a giant bank to store the gold, and it hasn't been seen since 1970. Trust us, bro. We audit it every year. Like, you don't have to do that anymore. You have the technology. Bitcoin's an open ledger. You can make the reserves public for the world to know. If those coins move, if some politicians take a little bit off the top, everyone's going to see it. And that incentivizes accountability, and that incentivizes good behavior. So it goes on to say that's not a pure Bitcoin stake, and it's not the first state entity to put government money into a Bitcoin ETF, with other states having previously invested in such funds with public employee retirement money. Michigan has been building such an investment, and Wisconsin sold its $350 million pension fund stake in the BlackRock ETF in May. ETF purchases remain just a step removed from direct crypto holdings. New Hampshire and Arizona also are running their own efforts to stand up reserves, well ahead of the U.S. government that started the ball rolling with President Trump's rhetoric on making a long-term federal crypto investment, which started as a campaign promise and developed into an executive order. The Trump administration remains in the planning stage, and the officials assigned with pursuing the reserve are also waiting for Congress to provide some formal powers to back the effort. Though New Hampshire was first in the nation to pass legislation, it's still working on its reserve project. So anyways, the last thing I'll say before I pass it on to Opti is if you take a look at like kind of regulatory history in the United States, the states lead the charge, and I'll give you like a very open example. So, marijuana is illegal on the federal level. Marijuana is legal in some states, right? And the federal government initially was, because it's still illegal on a federal level, was enforcing those laws, and they would go after marijuana manufacturers in certain states. After a while, they kind of gave up. Why? Because it was legal in California. It was legal in Colorado, right? So eventually, if enough states make marijuana legal, let's just for the sake of this example, the federal government's going to have no choice but to say, listen, like we're spending all this money on enforcement, but all these states are not even enforcing it on a local level. It kind of doesn't make sense anymore, right? And we've seen this with regulations that states lead the charge, which, by the way, is how the founders originally designed the country. So, shout out to Texas. Again, it's not a full victory because it's not spot Bitcoin in self-custody in a reserve that anyone could audit, anyone could see, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. But I think the big news of today, if you are going to take anything from today's episode, is the fact that late last night or early this morning, the odds of a U.S. national Bitcoin reserve happening in 2027 went from 38% to 61% overnight. So either somebody knows something or someone's going full degen and just posting a bet. We don't know, but if history has shown, odd markets tend to be a lot more accurate than pollsters, individuals, content creators, and such. So I think that's the big news. I'm going to pass it on to you, Opti. Opti, is this an insider? Is this a fluke? I mean, like I'm hearing Pompliano. I told you I heard a corporate executive from a Fortune 500 company tell it to me with such certainty. Listen, they're doing this thing. They're just stacking their bags first. I want to get your opinion, Opti. Like, what do you think is happening here, bro?
Yeah, well, obviously, I think as everyone kind of can acknowledge, the betting markets don't necessarily confirm that this is actually happening. But as we always say here, incentives drive everything. And the fact someone's putting money on the line, it does make you think that, yes, there might be an insider out there. It could be a degen, who knows? But if you do take all of this, again, I think this story in and of itself wouldn't really be the biggest story if it wasn't following what we were saying yesterday. That if you're looking on chain, you're kind of seeing the game theory play out on a nation state level. Remember, the China mining kind of ban is now officially over. I was speculating yesterday of like why this reason, what's the main reason, and I think it's because the Trump administration came out and said we're going to be the Bitcoin superpower of the world. So with all that kind of in mind, and then of course what I've been calling the billionaire FUD playbook forever, you don't tell people you're going to buy Bitcoin. It's literally not in your favor to tell people you buy Bitcoin, especially when you are the world reserve currency, especially when you're got such a big, target on your back. And so it just makes perfect sense, again, from a more like fundamentals view, from a first order move, that they would quietly stack this Bitcoin. Now, again, I am not a legal expert here, so maybe there is some kind of stipulation that says they have to announce all of these buys. I'm not the most well versed on this. Maybe this is something I'll have to look up during this weekend so I can come back and kind of clarify all that. But it would just make perfect sense for me as an individual. Obviously, institutions and nation states and governments work a little differently than individuals. But the smartest move you can do as a Bitcoiner is you don't tell people you buy Bitcoin. Like Nico and I probably made a huge mistake by making our job of being talking heads in Bitcoin.
We talk about Bitcoin.
I don't own any Bitcoin. I just love this thing. I'm just obsessed with this thing. I've had a boating accident. But yeah, your best bet is you really don't announce it. And remember, like Nico was saying yesterday, one of the big news that came out, was it early last year or late last year, early this year, I forget the timeline, but the Kingdom of Bhutan, we only found out that they were stacking Bitcoin because of the Celsius bankruptcy, because it was basically leaked. And so as we've been kind of covering throughout the year, you've seen a lot of countries in the Middle East do something very similar. There's rumors of them stacking Bitcoin. And then later on, you find out, yes, they were actually, acquiring Bitcoin, and they're making a, hard pivot into Bitcoin. So it just makes sense from those kind of perspective, those first principles, that you really don't announce this. And then again, if you're looking on-chain, if you really believe the on-chain metrics, and I love Checkmatey, I love his work. I love his kind of perspective. He's been tempering a lot of the more bullish and bearish narratives and being like, dude, just look on-chain. This is what's happening. And as he said, he's like, someone's buying this stuff. Someone is out there buying the majority of the coin, of the new issuance of Bitcoin, and we really don't know who it is. And we've seen this play out in the past. And so it would make perfect sense to me that this is what's going on. Now, I think another factor to this is what Nico was saying of, the states usually lead. And then you kind of have to understand like the competition that there is between the federal level and the state level. They don't want to like be one up by someone. So if you came out as Trump, and just take Trump, for example, as a person, he never wants to be one up here. And now the state of Texas, yes, it's not perfect. Yes, they're buying the Bitcoin ETF. It is a $5 million buy in the ETF. They claim they're going to go up to $10 million. And then potentially, as that article said, stack Bitcoin. They're trying to figure out their custodians. So like, there is a sense of like, how do I say it? There is a sense of competition here. There is maybe like an ego test here of who can do it first, who can stack the most. Remember, we've been talking about Saylor for a long time, that, there's competition amongst the billionaires of who can acquire the most Bitcoin, or rather who can be the richest person in the world. And so I think all of these kind of human aspects all play out in regards to who can, finally become the first one to buy Bitcoin. Now, again, this isn't perfect. And there's still arguably a lot of people that say like, I don't even want states to buy Bitcoin. And, I totally get that perspective, but Bitcoin is for anyone. And I think we all knew that this was going to happen at some point. So, kudos to Texas right now, moving away from Texas. It's a little bittersweet. I'm like, damn, it would have been pretty cool to be in Texas. I don't think anyone in Texas probably even knows that this was happening. But, Texas still has a good place in my heart. It's got a special place in my heart. So I'm glad to see them be number one here. Well, actually, technically, maybe they're not the first one to buy Bitcoin ETFs, but I think they're the first one to say this is for our strategic Bitcoin reserve. So historic news nonetheless. But the more speculative kind of view here is like, does someone know something is going to happen?
I think it's obvious that someone knows, man. Like, I think it's super obvious that someone knows. I think it would explain kind of like this price action that we've seen this year. I think someone knows something. And I think that, Texas is leading the charge, in my opinion. And I why I'm so confident in this is because of the amount of money that the Trumps have in the industry, right? And we read you guys a Yahoo article like a couple days ago where it was basically making the case that the Trumps are down like millions of dollars, like billions of dollars on their investment. So like it, and Trump has 3 more years in his presidency, and there's a very high probability that if he doesn't if he doesn't pull off an economic miracle next year, there's a high probability that the Republicans lose the House. Because I would say his first year was not like, I think he made a lot of progress on specific regulatory things for the United States. On the Bitcoin level, I'm not going to get into other politics, but on the Bitcoin level, I think freeing Ross was great. The executive order was great. The Genius Act was great. The Clarity Act, which is yet to pass, but it has a high probability of passing. Um, I think all of those things are definitely a step in the right direction. But then we're going backwards when it comes to privacy, for example, right? So it's definitely not perfect, but we're definitely moving the Overton window, and we're definitely moving the policies in our direction. And I think our industry has a voice now in DC, which I think, if anything, if you were to take anything from this last election, it's how important that is, right? Like we're now in the room, like regardless of what political party tries to run for office. um, that there's a Bitcoin lobby in DC, that you're gonna have to, you know, you're gonna have to get the stamp of approval from them, right? Which I think is a really good thing, and then it makes Bitcoin less partisan. I think Bitcoin's very partisan today. But anyway, that's
Well, Nico, I'd go one step further. You said I think a lot of people underestimate, um, the fact that the Trumps have one of the biggest Bitcoin treasuries. They're kind of all in. They've obviously making a lot of waves, but I think people kind of forget that like Trump before this last election, like his net worth basically, it took a beating, like it took a beating dealing with all of the stuff he dealt with. And essentially that what I'm trying to say is people underestimate just how much money he's already made in this ecosystem, and that he is also building a lot of companies on this. So yeah, technically he's, always been a billionaire with real estate, but I'm pretty sure like his net worth went up, a couple $1 billion with all of the different shenanigans they've done in Bitcoin. So like they've already profited a lot off this industry. Therefore, I think they want this industry to do well, kind of so it's not just like a vaporware thing. There is some kind of legacy here. I think Trump very much and the whole Trump family think about legacy here, and whether they'll be able to withstand whatever comes after this, basically next 3 years. It's like, I think people really underestimate just how invested they are in this. He is the president. We see the rhetoric they've been talking about. We see what they've been saying. Now it's just going to be very interesting if behind the scenes they're doing basically what we've been speculating on for a while. And we're not the only ones. We've been hearing this from a lot of people that, yeah, they're definitely stacking. They're not going to tell us until they are fully ready to, announce what they're going to do, because once they announce that they're buying, it's literally game over, and things are going to get absolutely nuts.
Yeah, we're gonna shoot up. The price is gonna shoot up. Like I'm telling you that is the only type of announcement at this point in Bitcoin's history that I think would even like move the needle a little bit is the United States government saying, "Hey, we've been actively buying Bitcoin." I think that would be, a shot heard across the world, around the world. And I think, do you think it's a coincidence that China just again became the third largest miner in the world, and the government's turning a blind eye? Do you think that's a coincidence? No, they're doing that because the Trump administration is pro Bitcoin. So the Chinese government is hedging their bets a little bit, right? They're not being as aggressive with enforcement. And if you think that's a coincidence, like you have your head in the sand. I'll be totally honest with you. So yeah,
You're being naive.
you're being naive. Yeah, like you don't know what you're talking about. So Like there's no what's the thing that I always say? I forget the
There's no conspiracies, but there's no coincidences.
so
right?
yeah, something like that. I gotta move this Pepe so it faces the camera.
I know he got kind of roasted. The desk was looking busy, so maybe we gotta clean it up,
We gotta
dude.
move that Pepe. Anyways, all right, guys, and we gotta take away the pumpkin. It's not Halloween anymore. I don't know
It's Thanksgiving, dude.
is that a Thanksgiving pumpkin?
Dude, you eat pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving?
That's true. That's true. All right. All right. And very festive, but it's not even. It's like a white pumpkin, bro.
Dude, it's still pumpkin. This one doesn't look. Anyways, this one's Halloween version. So,
Anyways, yeah, we'll figure out we'll figure out what little widget to replace that with. Anyways, guys, it's gonna be a great show. 550 of you guys watching live on YouTube. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button. If you guys are watching us on Rumble, X, on the audio platforms after the fact, or just replaying the episode, we really appreciate your support. Smash the like button. We wouldn't be here without you guys, so we really appreciate it. We thank you. And before we jump into the show, we have tons to cover today. I actually have a video that I ran into last night. Like the YouTube algorithm is so crazy sometimes. And it's a video from 13 years ago. 13 years ago. That's like a lifetime ago of Michael Saylor talking about Apple, talking about the iPhone, right? And if you hear this prediction, if you hear about how he talks about it, he got this so effing right, you know? So again, I think that Bitcoin's going through this very similar type of process. And mind you, that return on his investment on that Apple, and it's just ridiculous, right? So I have that video lined up for you guys. I'm excited to play it. And then during the news, I don't know what Opti did to Chrissy, but we're going to be talking about the EU chat control, so to speak. That's how they call it. But essentially what that is that the EU wants to monitor your private communications for your safety. And we're going to be talking about that. The reason we're going to be talking about that is, again, if you think they're okay with you transacting freely, I mean, if you think that they're not, if you think they'll be okay with you transacting freely but not communicating freely, again, you have your head in the sand. You're naive. You're not paying attention. I know that we posted something the other day regarding like the laws regarding Bitcoin transactions in the EU. And Lola Leets like jumped in the comment section, and she's like, "No, this is wrong. Like this isn't accurate. This is the actual thing that's happening." And my counter to that is like, "Okay, fine. Like, okay, we offered a correction, but fundamentally, it's the same thing, guys. Like, they want to get rid of cash. They want everyone to have a digital ID. They don't really care what you have to say. They're gonna roll this out." And you're going to have a choice as an individual as to what system you want to use, right? Like that's really what it comes down to. Like it's not rocket science here. And again, like how does this make everyone's life better? I have no idea. But anyways, before we get into all of that, I do want to give a very special shout out to our lead sponsor, Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today to get started. You'll get free Bitcoin Well points. You could redeem those points. You could use those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. You could scan the QR code to get signed up. And what makes Bitcoin Well different and unique compared to all the other platforms is that it's a non-custodial platform, meaning when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. To get started, all you have to do is scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video/podcast description. If you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, and you want a tailored white glove service where they walk you from A to Z, from buying Bitcoin to putting that Bitcoin into self-custody, you have to check out their Bitcoin Well OTC product. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC, schedule a call with their infinite team today. All right, everybody, let's get to the news. We have tons to cover. We'll be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stampseed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Stampseed. Guys, you want to stamp your seed into titanium. You don't want to write it down on paper. Go to stampseed.com today. Use promo code SIMPLY. You're going to get 15% off anything on the store. So again, head over to stampseed.com today. Promo code SIMPLY. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $90,290, but back above 90K. That's nice. That feels good. Block height $925,300. Market cap 1.8 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 6.1%. Decline from all-time high, negative 28.5%. So you still have a major opportunity. Let me know if you guys hear this video in the chat. I know sometimes when I share the screen, you guys can't hear the video, but essentially it's Michael Saylor talking about Apple 13 years ago. And this was like in the early innings of the iPhone era. So, it obviously transformed. The iPhone transformed the world, what smartphones could do, what they would be like. Think about what your world was like before the iPhone, right? You remember what boredom used to feel like? Remember that, dude? Like, where you'd be bored, you go to like a doctor's office and you like open a magazine and stuff.
Dude, I was bored all year. What are we talking about?
No, but you know what I'm talking about, dude. Like, remember that?
No, not really, dude.
Exactly.
Not at all.
Okay. So anyways, here's Saylor. And let's check out what he has to say.
Revolution, who are they?
I'd say the winners right now are Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, and in general, companies that create mobile application software networks.
But I heard your speech and you said the winner mobile is at the moment Apple, Apple, and Apple. That's how I understood it. And the rest is basically playing second viol or doesn't know how to basically get into the market.
Well, I think we're chapter 1 of the mobile wave, and there's probably 12 chapters. Apple's the winner of the first chapter by far. I mean, you could say we're in chapter 2 or 3, and maybe Apple won the first chapter and the second chapter. But there's actually more chapters of this book to unfold, and there are going to be other opportunities and other networks. For example, mobile identity, mobile commerce, mobile health. And as those things come along, it's not clear that Apple will be the winner. There may be other companies that we don't notice yet that are going to come.
Okay. But you say the iPad, you think that is the most amazing thing because the rich and powerful are carrying around the iPad, and that's the first competition with paper?
Yeah, I think the iPad is the most underappreciated or underestimated new technology. I think it's the first device in the history of the world that competes favorably with paper. So I think it's inevitable that every literate person on the planet is going to end up with at least one, but probably more than one, either iPad or a tablet computer that's got comparable techniques.
How many tablets in 2015?
In 2015, let's say we're like 3 years out, probably more like 250 million, 300 million, I'm guessing.
Will it be just as important as a smartphone revolution?
I think it'll be at least as important. It might be more important because smartphones are useful for a set of activities, but smartphones don't normally have the ability to host enterprise applications. But if you look at the tablet computer like the iPad, every application never ran on a Windows machine or the web probably would run better on an iPad or a tablet computer. And so the iPad is completely disrupting the entire enterprise market, and then it's also disrupting the entire entertainment market. And so entertainment and enterprise are incredibly valuable portions of our society.
What does it mean?
So, like, and he keeps going, and you'd be like, Nico, like, are you regarded? Duh.
Yes.
Like all these things have. All these things, you know, like not 100% accurate, but like it's like as if he's talking about the present, right? And if you take a look at this date again, 13 years ago, July 11, 2012, and you take a look at Apple stock, which was, you know, it's July. Let's zoom in a little bit so you guys could see it. You know, let's go July here, July 2012. I know there's been stock splits and all that stuff, but it was $21. Now Apple stock is $278. So I don't know what the math is on that, but it's about a 13x. And that's not taking into account all the stock splits that happened in between.
Yeah, Apple, I just did a perplexity check. Apple has roughly or approximately 14.78 billion shares outstanding.
But how many stock splits has Apple had since 2012? And what would the actual rate of return be? So yeah, look, so Apple dude, it's so crazy. So Apple has done 2 stock splits, a 7-for-1 split on June 9th, 2014, and a 4-for-1 split on August 31st, 2020. If you invested in Apple at the beginning of 2012, which is when that interview was conducted and held through today, your rate of return would be roughly 920%. Your original capital would have multiplied by a factor of 10.2x per one source of total return data. So is it as good as Bitcoin? No, but I'll take that 10 bagger any day, bro.
So Bitcoin's 100 bagger.
But the reason I pointed this out is like I wanted to like really show you guys Saylor's track record of making these logical predictions that you look back in hindsight and you're like, duh, like obviously, like of course. But you have to remember, do you guys remember how crappy the UI of the original iPhones were back? I don't think I got an iPhone till like iPhone 5, right? And remember, like if they died, like if they ran out of battery, like it would take like 20 minutes for them to charge, for them to turn back on again. Like it's not like today, right? The thing battery lasts all day. You know, it has like every map, like every app known to man. Like you could summon your car, you can order an Uber to wherever you are, you can order food, you could book a flight, you could literally do anything on your phone, right? You can talk to an AI and literally answers all your questions, or how Opti calls them, the demons.
Dude, you could date an AI too.
I don't know about that.
Dude, people are doing it. I'm not saying I'm doing it.
I don't know about that.
I date central bankers, but you know, people are doing it.
So breaking news, Opti is dating an AI.
Hey, they're nice to me.
So anyways, guys, it's going to be...
Wait.
Look. Someone in the chat saying it's about 1,500%. Just ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT told me something different.
Just ask the demons.
So like guys, it's not just the price. So the stock split a couple times. So you have to take that into consideration, right? Someone are saying I believe stock splits already account in the price. I don't think it does. Um I remember car phones and pagers before Nokias and Blackberries. Uh this is hilarious. I love our chat.
All right, and let me jump in here because
Opti, quit throwing digs at Nico. You're having fun.
No,
Thank you to you too.
never gonna happen. This is how I show love, bro. This is how I show love. Anyways, there's two things that I want to point out. Specifically, is the first one is just in hindsight when you look back at even this reporter's question, you're like, bro. It's so obvious. Like in hindsight, everything is so obvious. And again, it reminds me of just every other new technology in the modern life that we all take for granted. You know, the internet, the computer, the iPhone, the iPad, like Saylor was kind of saying. And when they're kind of still a new technology, when people haven't fully been able to grasp the impact that they're going to have, it seems like a reasonable question to be like, so like, is this thing more than a toy? And again, relating that to where we are right now with Bitcoin, it feels like we are just starting to get to the point where people realize the impact of what this is going to do. And that leads me to the second point where Saylor was like, I think maybe we're at like chapter 1, chapter 2 of this whole mobile revolution. And again, I think there's a parallel to Bitcoin where it's like, I know we've been in Bitcoin for a long time. Like a significant portion of my adult life has now been, obsessed with Bitcoin. But I think if we're really being honest about where we are in the story, it almost feels like the same thing. Maybe it was the end of chapter 1. Maybe this is the end of chapter 2. But if we're doing like a 12-chapter book, we're still basically at the beginning of this thing. And I think we underestimate just how big of an impact it will be when Bitcoin is ubiquitous, when when other random everyday people are taking it for granted. For us, we're still living in the future, essentially. Like we're still ahead of our time. We still understand things that haven't even come to fruition yet. And 10, 15 years, what you said, 2011? So 14 years from now, going back, I'm sure these conversations will get clipped, maybe, God willing. And they'll look back and be like, how did these two idiots figure it out? Like, it's so obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, dude. It's obvious if you've been paying attention. Just like clearly money's broken. Clearly Bitcoin's better money. When is AI Nico and Opti coming out? Why do you even plant that idea
Never.
in Opti's head?
Dude, AI could never match this level of regardedness. So I think I'm going to be safe for a job for a while.
Anyways, guys, if you guys are enjoying the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Consider subscribing. We're going to be right back in just a bit. But before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to our merch. It has been flying off the shelves. Guys, we really appreciate your guys' support. Opti's wearing a shirt right now, but yes, get yours while supplies last. We do not.
I'm wearing that one though.
We do not drop ship. So we buy our inventory, we hold our inventory, and we ship it directly to you and custom packaging. We really pay attention to quality. This is not just something you get off a cheap drop shipper. We pair it up with a very high quality merch manufacturer who's a Bitcoiner actually, based out of the United States, and we'll ship it to you guys. So these are the types of hoodies that you'll put on once and you'll never want to wash them because of how comfortable they are. And yeah, so we have the Simply Bitcoin shirts. This one's a fan favorite, the Buy Bitcoin Doodle, the Simply Bitcoin cream hoodie, the Simply Bitcoin team cap, and then the shirt that Opti's wearing right now, not a negotiation tee. So yeah, guys, get yours while supplies last. If you guys want to support the show, there's a great way to do it. Go to simplybitcoin.com, or you guys could just scan the QR code on the screen. I think that says Sensats. Oops. But anyways, guys, we're going to be right back in just a bit. We're going to hit the news segment. We're going to be talking about chat control in Europe. And it seems like they just Yeah. Yeah. We'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, everybody. We are back.
Yo. I'm not even going to say it.
You should say it.
Yeah, that you took the headphones off for the ads. So the chat's going to love that.
No, bro, I was on the phone with somebody. Why would you say that?
I said I wasn't going to say it, and you made me say it.
Anyways, no, bro, I was on the phone. I'm dealing with stuff. Oh man,
dude, me too. I'm melting in here, bro.
Okay,
it's insane. Anyways, get to it, dude. Put the phone down.
I'm dealing with stuff,
dude.
Okay.
You're here live. I need you here.
Okay, I should just silence everything. So there you go. Do not disturb. There we go. All right. So I do want to talk about this. So there's this website you should go to. It's called fightchatcontrol.eu. And basically it's the EU still wants to scan your private messages and photos. So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to go to learn more and all that stuff. But as you could see, member states opposing 9, member states supporting 12, member states undecided 6. So how will you be impacted if you live in the European Union? And I think that's very important. So you will be impacted. Every photo, every message, every file you will send will be automatically scanned without your consent or suspicion. This is not about catching criminals. It is about mass surveillance imposed on all 450 million citizens of the EU. Every private message, photo, and file scanned automatically. No suspicion required. No exemptions. Even encrypted communications. Breaking encryption. Weakening or breaking end-to-end encryption exposes everyone's communications, including sensitive financial, medical, and private data, to hackers, criminals, and hostile actors. Undermines your fundamental rights to privacy and data protection, as guaranteed by Articles 7 and 8 of the EU Charter, rights considered core to European democratic values. Automated scanners routinely misidentified innocent content such as vacation photos or private jokes as illegal, putting ordinary people at risk of false accusations, damaging investigations. And then one of the reasons they do this is to protect children, but they make the case that it's not efficient in doing so. And then I think most importantly is it creates a global precedent. So it creates a dangerous global precedent enabling authoritarian governments, citing EU policy, to roll out intrusive surveillance at home, undermining privacy and free expression worldwide. EU politicians themselves exempt themselves from this surveillance under professional secrecy rules. They get privacy and you and your family do not. Demand fairness. So that is batshit crazy. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, that's wild. That's wild, right? Because it's like, who holds the politicians accountable? Who holds the politicians accountable? So the politicians get to do whatever they want, and every single one else has to follow the rules, essentially, which is just crazy to me. Like, it's wild. It's so wild. Such a double standard. Oh, we're back below 90K. Anyways, so moving on to this. Sharing my screen here. EC planning to use law to make Apple give way on digital euro. So let's connect the dots here, right? They want to break encrypted communication. They don't want you to have privacy, essentially, right? You own nothing, be happy. Haha. They want to roll out a digital ID. They want to roll out a CBDC. That is literally lockstep, total control over your life and total surveillance into what you're doing, even though you are not a criminal. Like in the United States, you're innocent till proven guilty, right? It's a very famous, part of the United States, right? This is like, I don't even care if you're guilty. We're just going to be able to act. And then the crazy part to me here is like, how do you not think this is not going to be abused? Right? Like that's the crazy part. Like they're like, no. We want privacy for ourselves. You don't deserve privacy for your own good. Trust us, bro. Right? Like, I'm sorry, just no one deserves that much power. No one deserves that much power. Like, no one deserves that much power. Why do you want that much power? Like, the US is launching and catching rockets, and every time I go to Europe, the effing water bottles have this little thing that you can't even, like, it's super annoying. Like, the innovation coming from a society and an economy comes from entrepreneurs. It doesn't come from politicians, right? So, like, they don't create anything. Like, just because you set a set of rules doesn't mean anything. You need an engine and an economy. You need entrepreneurs. You need small businesses taking a risk. Like, the European Union right now is one of the most hostile places to create a small business. And small businesses are the backbones of economies. Make no mistake. So, like, if you're creating an environment where everyone just wants to leave and go to Dubai if they have enough money, like, I think you're doing a shit job as a politician, in my opinion. Right? So anyways, moving on to a post by Mario Nawfal, and he says, EU wants to scan your DMs and pass the law in secret. So not only do they want to pass this law, but they want to do it in secret so that you don't notice. The EU is quietly moving to approve the controversial chat control law, which could open the door to scanning your private messages. The latest draft removes mandatory state surveillance, but still allows platforms like WhatsApp and Signal to voluntarily scan chats. That's just surveillance with a polite name. Some countries like France and Denmark are on board, but Germany and Poland are pushing back hard. The kicker, they're trying to pass it this week behind closed doors with zero debate. According to the source is disclose.tv, very famous kind of news ag account. I actually do want to see the video and see this. Every time I see this, it's all so crazy.
Nous l'avons considéré.
French.
La démocratie est notre trésor commun. Très longtemps, nous l'avons considéré comme acquis. Mais aujourd'hui, nos démocraties sont menacées. L'Union a besoin de sa propre structure dédiée à la lutte contre les manipulations de l'information.
That's nuts. That's wild. So, like, basically, our democracies are under attack because of the manipulation of information. And because of the manipulation of information and interference, we basically need to spy on everyone's messages.
Sounds familiar.
Like, that's wild. Like that's so wild. Let's see what else she says.
Ingérence étrangère, un bouclier européen.
A European democracy shield. You can't even make this up if you tried, bro. God damn. Holy cow. That is wild. That is wild. That's so crazy. Bitcoiner slavery, everyone. Just saying. Bitcoiner slavery. Anyways, before we move on, guys, I do want to give a shout out to our partner. Guys, you want to take self-custody of your Bitcoin, we recommend the BitKey hardware wallet here at Simply Bitcoin. It makes taking self-custody of your Bitcoin incredibly easy. All you got to do to spend is you take your BitKey hardware wallet, tap, boom, bam, bing. You're ready to send your Bitcoin. And what's cool is it has multi-sig built in and inheritance features built in as well. So to get started, go to bitkey.world today and use promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY to get 20% off anything on the store. But anyways, I do want to go back to the conversation. Like, bro, a democracy, what is it? A democracy shield?
Democracy shield.
A European democracy shield. We need to look at your shit. That's what that means. We need to be able to see everything for the sake of democracy, bro. If we are not able to see your private DMs, democracy is at risk. That's crazy, man. People in the chat, the authoritarian state is blatantly obvious. Yeah, dude, it's so obvious. It's so obvious. It's batshit. This is wild. Truth is manipulation for them. Power for control. Imagine thinking privacy still exists. That's a good one. The ruling class versus the slaves. Oof, that's a good one. The old country is going full Aurelian. Or did I say that right?
Orwellian.
Aurelian. Thank you, Opti.
Dude, this guy can't speak. It's crazy.
Anyways,
all right. Let me jump in here.
What's your take on this?
First off, you know, Nico asked. I think it was rhetorical, obviously, but you know, basically asking him, like, how can they not see that this will be abused? Obviously, they're trying to exempt themselves. They probably understand just how bad this is, but they're trying to exempt themselves without little thought to second order effects here. Like, if they're no longer in power, obviously you will be targeted. But I think the most depressing part about kind of the state of the world is a lot of people think that the politicians are like evil geniuses. In reality, they're some of the most incompetent people, period. And once you really kind of chew on that idea, you're like, man, like the state of the world is like we're cooked. This is horrible. Now, I've been seeing this happen for a while. Nico's staring at me. Nico's staring at me. Wait, metaphorically.
You're turning red right now.
It's because I'm hot in here, dude. I'm literally sweating, bro. It's hot in here. It is. The AC is not working, so I'm not embarrassed about what I say. I'm just sweating. It's like hot. I've been following along on this for a while, and I make Nico turn red because I'm always joking. Like, I'm so glad that I'm an American and I don't have to deal with what Europe wants to do. But this, yeah, dude, thank you. But this is happening everywhere. Like, we've all seen the stories of people being arrested for memes in Europe. Well, we are starting to see something similar happen in the US. So it's not one of those things that like, oh, this will never happen in the United States because we have the Constitution, we have the First Amendment, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, no, the politicians want to have this happen everywhere. Because as we've been covering for a while on the show, that ever since social media has been proliferated, ever since, Elon semi-freed the bird on Twitter, they can't control the conversation. And since we basically don't have like a Walter Cronkite on the show, on the news, since we don't have gate-kept information anymore and everyone isn't watching the same thing, the plebs out there, the everyday layman, they're talking, they're saying stuff that the powers that be don't want to be said. They're having conversations that they don't want to have, because if you do start questioning stuff, then eventually you're going to get to the point where, as the chat was saying, like, the authoritarianism is just so obvious. Now, there is a, there is a very real effect of people kind of overshooting that, and everything is a conspiracy and everything is super evil. But I think that's just part of the game right now. This is where we are, where social media has allowed everyone to be more interconnected, to have these conversations. And the people in power are, they're obviously panicking. And this leads us into the greater conversation is like, if they don't want you to literally say words or think certain thoughts, what makes you think that they're going to want to allow you, or even think that it's a good idea for you to use a money that they cannot stop?
Bro, like the idea that they're going to be okay with self-custody and they're not even okay with you like communicating freely is like absurd. Like that. This is why I had a problem the other day. Like when Lola Leeds was like, basically like, no, like she was like nitpicking like the information. So you're not getting this 100% accurate. And I was like, you're missing the big picture here. Opti, I think the hat fell behind you, by the way. And she was basically like, look, like you're missing the big picture, so to speak. And I'm like, no, I don't think I am. Like, I think that it looks horrible, bro. It looks very, very nice. Oh, I love our hats. Simplybitcoin.com. Get the latest merch. Anyways, guys, we're gonna have a great culture segment. I don't know what Opti has in stock for today, but it's gonna be a good one. Guys, we love you all. Appreciate it. Stay tuned. We're gonna be right back in just a little bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEdigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitcoinBend.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Bend's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, guys, we are back. So I wanted to cover this a couple of days ago because an article went absolutely viral, and I don't think that the article in and of itself is too revolutionary. It does expose kind of a general trend that many people feel. But I think what is kind of the most important aspect of this from our perspective, from a Bitcoiner's perspective, is who wrote this article. And so let me pull this up. This is this guy, Michael W. Green. If you're unfamiliar with him, he's known as Professor Plum on Twitter. And he's been a very notorious anti-Bitcoin guy. All right, wait, guys, we turned the AC on. Let me know if you guys can hear this, because if we can, then I won't be dying every day in the chat. So it's super loud, but I'll turn it off if not. Let me know if you can hear it in the background. Anyways, as I was saying, this article went pretty viral. This was released on the 23rd, and it's called Part 1, My Life is a Lie. And he's a notorious anti-Bitcoin fiat MMT maxi. And he goes out there all the time. He shits on Bitcoin. He's a fool, just fully on board. No, they don't hear it. Let's go. Okay, let's go. Anyways, I'm not going to read the whole article, but I do highly suggest that you guys read it. Here, let me drop it in the chat for you guys. Again, as a Bitcoiner, it's probably not going to be too kind of revelatory. Like, it's not going to tell you anything you don't already know. But for like your friends and family and people that are complaining about what's going on, I think it does give you a lot of signal of where we are. And of course, there's a lot of charts. He makes his case, but I'm going to just read kind of the conclusion of this, because I think it kind of sums up the article very well. And of course, he didn't get to the point where we would on this show and be like, that's why we buy Bitcoin. This is the very reason why we're Bitcoiners. This is the very reason why everyone will most likely gravitate towards Bitcoin. But it does kind of sum up exactly what everyone is feeling. But now he's got the data to back it up. You know, people are struggling right now. People are living paycheck to paycheck. People are working more than ever. And they can't, it still feels like they're barely floating. It still feels like they're barely able to tread water. Now, when you look at all the official kind of numbers, there is a pretty good case to make that, like, as a society, we're richer than we ever lived. Right now, even if you're middle class, maybe even lower income, lower middle class, like, you're living better than kings of the past. And even that, you're starting to feel like I'm just treading water. So I'm going to read this here because I think it's very interesting. He goes, the lie. So that's the trap. The real poverty line, the threshold where a family can afford housing, healthcare, childcare, and transportation without relying on means-tested benefits isn't $31,200. Now, that number is essentially the official number that is touted by all these institutions, by these governments, that if you're making less than $31,000, then you're under the official poverty line. Now, this whole article basically makes the case that that number is completely wrong. It's based on a 1963 metric that is completely flawed. And the real poverty line, which I think a lot of people feel, they're like, look, I make $70K a month. I make $100K a month. I make $50K a month. Via the official numbers, I should be feeling like I'm doing okay. But in reality, when you kind of look at the numbers, you adjust for inflation, you adjust for the real cost of living and the real things you need to essentially, live a modern comfort life, the real number is roughly $140,000. Again, said another way, if you are making less than $140,000, then that is the real poverty line. And I'd venture to guess that most people don't make more than $140,000. And this is why you see a lot of people that have good jobs. They're like, I make six figures a year, and yet I still feel like I'm barely floating. I still feel like I am broke. And this article makes a very good case for everything's completely skewed. The real poverty line, which is insane to think about, the real poverty line today is if you're making less than $140,000, you're essentially in poverty compared to, you know, based on some of these metrics. Anyways, and he goes, most of my readers will have cleared this threshold. My parents never really did, but I was born lucky, brains, beauty, in the eye of the beholder. Admittedly, height, parents that encourage and sacrifice for education, and in American citizenship. But most of my readers are now seeing this trap for their children. And the system is designed to prevent them from escaping. Every dollar you earn climbing from $40,000 to $100,000 triggers benefits losses that exceed your income gains. You are literally poorer for working harder. The economists will tell you this is fine because you're building wealth. Your 401k is growing. Your home equity is rising. You're richer than you feel. Next week, I'll show you why that's wrong, and then we can start the discussion of how to rebuild, because we can. The wealth you're counting on, the retirement accounts, the home equity, the nest egg that's supposed to make this all worthwhile is just as fake as the poverty line, but the humans behind that wealth are real, and they are amazing. So it's going to be interesting to see what his solutions are next week. But obviously, from a Bitcoiner's perspective, I'm pretty sure he's not going to say Bitcoin. For us, it's like, yeah, you know, maybe I'm not making as much money yearly to officially be over the poverty line. But what you can do is save in something. Obviously, you need to have a little extra means. In this context, it's going to be extremely hard that if you're not making any money, it's obviously going to be hard to save money and then further save in the best money, because there's a learning curve to that. But when you really think about that idea, that if you're not making more than $140,000 a year because of inflation, because of how costly everything is, and this is, of course, in the United States, you are literally under the poverty line. I think what is interesting about this is that most people are still working on old paradigms. Obviously, if you tell people you make $100K a year, they're like, oh, you're rich, man. You should be doing good. You should be traveling. You should have excess. But in reality, most people are struggling. And when you really look at the data, and hence why we always make fun of the CPI, basically the official, you know, CP lie, that it doesn't account for inflation. All of these numbers are skewed. You can even kind of go in and, you know, Nico's not here, but you can go into what the Trump administration is saying. And I've been pretty favorable on some of them, or rather, I've been pretty kind of neutral on a lot of this stuff. But one of the things they've been saying recently is like the economy is doing better than ever. And yeah, maybe due to the numbers that they can, you know, put out in front of you, it seems like we're doing better. But when you talk to people on the street, when you go to the grocery store, when you have to pay for something that you didn't, that's unexpected, you realize like, wait, this isn't going as good as everyone says it is. And I think when you kind of boil it all back down to what us Bitcoiners have been saying for a while, it's like, it's the money, guys. The money is broken. Not only is the money broken, but the system is designed in such a way that the top half of it, the top 1%, is extracting wealth from the bottom 99%. And this is just how the system works. And I'm going to be very interested to see what his solutions are. Again, he is like an anti-Bitcoiner, an MMT kind of guy, fiat maxi. So I doubt he's going to actually say Bitcoin's, you know, one of the ways to escape from this. But just that idea, if you're making less than $140,000, you're really in poverty, is just crazy to me. And then when you talk to maybe your friends, your family, your parents, especially maybe your parents, if they're like the boomer age, you know, they always say the same thing to you. They're like, just work harder, you know, just like bootstrap yourself like I did. And you're like, yeah, you know, I agree. Hard work is very important. But when you really look at the data, it's just like, you can't really get out of this cycle if you can't save in something, if you don't have any excess. And it's just like, it just goes to show, it highlights how broken the system is. And it's not that you're being gaslit. It's not that you're, you know, becoming an extremist online. It's just when you go to the raw data, it's showing us, yes, maybe we have more modern comforts than, you know, kings of the past. But in reality, we're probably worse off than, you know, medieval serfs. Like, we live in a sharecropper society where you work hard, but you really don't own anything. You barely able to even do anything. We live in a renter society. And I could probably rant on this for a long time, but it really blows my mind that the poverty line is under 140K. If you're not making 140K, you're being lied to by the money. The dollar is a liar. You need to value your wealth, your time in a metric that doesn't lie to you. And to us, to the Bitcoin community, that is Bitcoin. As long as you're stacking more sats than you were last month, you are winning that game. It may not feel that way because the price hasn't gone up a lot. It may not feel that way because you still feel like you're not spending any money on anything. You're not getting the quick dopamine from it. But I'd be surprised if he mentioned Bitcoin. Anyways, maybe this is a good topic that you can talk with your family. Maybe this is a new angle that you can tell your friends and family. Obviously, it's hard to get people to invest in Bitcoin if they don't have the means to even survive, just hit their basic survival necessities. But that number is nuts. The official government, the official narrative is if you're making more than $31,000, you're not in poverty. The real numbers adjusted from 1963 when that metric came out to today is $140,000. Just kind of a mind-blowing number from, I would argue, a very unexpected source because he's a fiat maxi. He's an anti-Bitcoiner. But you can still find signal in people that you disagree with, in the noise. There's still some signal out there, guys. So anyways, guys, that is today's show. I hope you guys got some value. Before I sign off, guys, we are going to do a live stream tomorrow. You guys will get your Thanksgiving orange pills tomorrow. The show don't stop. We'll be here tomorrow, same time as usual, maybe a little earlier, maybe like today's time, only 10 minutes late, or what was it, 15 minutes late? So we will be live tomorrow. We are going to be dropping content on our channel. And on that note, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We will see you tomorrow. This has been your boy Opti. This has been Simply Bitcoin Live. Have a good rest of your day.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.